Miss May, late again. We need to get class started. Let's go, Miss May.
Hey class, alright, today we're going to be doing section 10.5, graphing square roots. On our bell work problem, we're going to go over yesterday's concept. So again, the point is to solve for x. We need to get rid of the square root by squaring both sides. We get 25 is equal to the square root of x minus 7. Again, square root is no longer there. So we're going to add 7 to both sides to get 32 is equal to x. Again, that is our solution, but we got to make sure that it works. So plugging it back in, 5 is equal to 32 minus 7. 5 is equal to the square root of 25. So we know that that checks out and that is the correct solution. So in the new concept, graphing square roots, these are square root functions that have the form y equals the square root of x. So again, this here is called our parent function. The parent function, the graph, looks like the graph on the right. So if we were to make a tiny little xy table, again, the smallest number we could plug in is 0. We can't take the square root of negative numbers. So if I was to plug in a 0, the square root of 0 is 0. If I was to plug in 1 for x, the square root of 1 is 1. So if you see on our graph here, I plotted 0, 0, and 1, 1. So what we're going to be learning today is we're just going to be shifting this graph based on what is happening to this equation. So this again is called the parent function. We're going to plot this point and we're going to plot this point each time and then just make that shape on our graph. So it's going to be a half of a parabola. So the first example.
Kind of like a shooting star, huh?
Yes, Miss May, kind of like a shooting star. So the first question again is going to be just to find the domain of the function. It's not going to be graphing it, but remember up here we couldn't have a negative square root. So what we need to do is the first point here was x equals 0. We want to set this equal to 0 so we can find the first point of the graph. So 3x minus 9 is greater than or equal to 0. Again, the side note here, just to hit it again, you cannot take the square root of a negative number. Whatever is inside the square root must be positive. The first positive non-negative number will be 0. We're going to add 9 to both sides. 3x is greater than or equal to 9. Divide by 3. X is greater than or equal to 3. So that will be our answer. That means that the first x value you could plug in would be a 3. Miss May, any questions or comments?
Do I do it with the square root or just the thing inside?
Just the thing inside of the square root. So if you notice, I did not even address that 2 in the front. I completely ignored it, so just inside of the square root symbol. Okay, so go ahead and pause your video now, folks, and go ahead and try the practice problem on your class. So what you should have been doing on the practice problem is taking the inside, which is negative 2x plus 5, and setting it greater than or equal to 0. Again, just like an equal sign, we're going to subtract 5 on both sides. Okay. Divide by a negative 2. Miss May, what happens to the inequality symbol when we divide by a negative?
Ooh. Oh, the sign changes.
That's right, Miss May. Good job. So that means that x is going to be less than or equal to 5/2. Now, most of you probably would be using a calculator, so that answer would look like x is less than or equal to 2.5. Okay? Again, the little side note that I want you guys to make sure you're paying attention to is to flip the sign when dividing by a negative. Again, you all know I have horrible handwriting, so again, one more time, flip the sign when dividing by a negative. Any questions, Miss May?
Nope.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and flip to the back side now. The next type of problem will be actually graphing. So we're going to still look at the previous graph that we had on the front side. If you remember, this was called the parent function. Our first point was at 0, 0. I'll put a couple lines here. We're going by ones. And our second point was just going to be up 1 and over 1. And it was going to be a half parabola. Or, as Miss May said earlier, because we're listening class, like a shooting star, right? So that is how your graph should look each and every time. Now, in our examples, numbers outside of the square root move the graph either up or down. Again, keyword folks, outside of the square root. So as you can see, the square root is right here. This is outside of the square root. So what that is doing, that plus 2 is moving the graph up 2 units. So again, up 2. So that original point was at 0, 0, so it's going to move up 2. And again, up 1 and over 1. And your graph should be looking like that. Miss May, any questions on that?
So we don't need a table?
You do not need a table for this. Would you be wrong to do a table? Definitely not. You can always do an XY table, right? That's why me and Miss May have been teaching that to you all year. But for this type of graph, we will accept just those 2 points with the graph. So the next example, if the number is inside of the square root, as you can see it here, it's inside, that is going to move it left or right. It is always opposite of the sign. So I see a plus 3, so that means it's going to move left 3 or a negative 3. Always opposite of what you see. So again, our parent function at the top was 0, 0. So that point is going to move over 3, and again, up 1 and over 1, and we make our graph. Again, as Ms. May said, it's always a shooting star, right? So the shape should always be going in the same direction. If you're getting a straight line or some other weird looking graph, you're doing something wrong. Any last questions on that, Ms. May? All right, class, so go ahead and pause the video, and we're going to have you do the last 2 examples. So this will be y equals the square root of x minus 4, and our second will be y equals the square root of x minus 1. Okay, go ahead and pause the video now, class, whenever you're ready. Okay, all right, class, so on this first one here, it was outside of the square root, so this should be moving it down 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, up 1 over 1, and we're going to create our shape. Second one, it's inside of the square root, so this is going to be moving it opposite of what I see. So I'm moving it right 1. Again, we're shifting 0, 0 over 1, up 1 over 1, and then our shooting star. All right, folks, again, on your homework, we should be paying attention, hopefully watching this video. So before we let you go, why was Miss May late today? It was because of her locker. So at the top of your homework, I want you to go and write that down. Write the word locker at the top of your homework when you submit it. Miss May, how do we submit our homework now?
Through Google Classroom. Find the assignment and upload the photos of your homework.
Again, you should not be emailing your homework to us anymore, using Google Class moving forward. Thanks, class. Have a great day.
Woo!
See
Peace!
ya.